Ahoy hoy, I'm Planetwalk, and today I'm responding to a video by Eric Dubay, where he explains how the midnight sun supposedly works on a flat Earth. Let's take a look.
The midnight sun is a phenomenon experienced by observers north of the Arctic Circle during summer solstice, where the sun can be seen circling over and around 360 degrees without ever setting. This is because the sun, having reached the Tropic of Cancer, is making its tightest, narrowest circle over the Earth, so much so that observers positioned centrally within the Arctic Circle are never at any time significantly far enough away from the sun for it to set beyond their horizon.
But here's the thing, flat earthers can't even explain why the sun sets in the first place. It's kind of weird, don't you think, trying to explain why the sun doesn't set in some instances when you can't even explain why the sun sets.
Meanwhile, in the Antarctic during summer solstice, the sun disappears completely for over 2 months, leaving everyone below the Antarctic Circle in bitter cold darkness from mid-May to mid-July.
So it's rather interesting to me that Eric Dubay believes that Antarctica has a 24-hour night when he doesn't believe that regular people are actually allowed to go to Antarctica to verify this. I'm not saying that he's wrong about that, I'm just saying that it's pretty interesting.
Again, this is because the sun, narrowing and tightening its path towards the Tropic of Cancer, means it has moved significantly far enough away from the Antarctic perimeter so as not to be seen by observers positioned so far south.
Again, what is causing the sun to disappear here? Now, I know that a lot of flat earthers will say, oh, perspective, or the sun's so small that you can't see it. Well, how big is the sun? And why don't we see its angular size change throughout the day? Why doesn't the sun's size noticeably change throughout the year to me in New Zealand? These are all things that flat earthers don't have an answer for, and the amount of time we've been waiting for an answer, I don't think they're ever going to have an answer for them.
In order to fit the heliocentric globe model, this midnight sun phenomenon must also occur for observers south of the Antarctic Circle during winter solstice.
And that's exactly what people that have been to the South Pole observe. It kinda debunks flat Earth, don't you think?
In reality, however, there is never 24-hour sunlight anywhere in Antarctica at any time of year.
Oh, he's just going to say that it doesn't happen because otherwise it would debunk his flat Earth. I see how it is.
During winter solstice, when the sun is circling its widest path over and around the Tropic of Capricorn, observers far enough south will experience extended daylight hours due to proximity with the sun, but will still observe it to rise and set beyond the horizon completely every single day.
Except for, people that have actually gone to the Antarctic Circle during summer. Like someone that I've spoken to called Landon Knoll. Does he not exist or something? Also, a very important thing to note here is that in the summer, the further south you go past the Tropic of Capricorn, the more daylight hours you get. This kind of debunks Eric Dubay's entire argument here because it rests on when the sun gets far enough away from an observer, it will set. However, the further south you go past the Tropic of Capricorn, the further away the sun should be at all times. This means that days shouldn't get longer as you go south past the Tropic of Capricorn. Except in reality, they do. So Eric Dubay kind of debunks himself there. Good job.
In fact, this is why the Arctic and Antarctic climates are so strikingly dissimilar because of the drastically different amount of sunlight received by each.
Or, and I know this is going to sound absolutely crazy, maybe it has to do with the elevation of Antarctica compared to the Arctic. Or even crazier, maybe it has something to do with the amount of ice that's on land in Antarctica compared to the amount of ice that's on land in the Arctic. So here's a very simple lesson in physics. Liquids have the ability to flow, and especially low viscosity liquids flow a lot more easily, like water. Solids don't really have this ability except for in the case of granular flow, and granular flow isn't exactly the same as liquid flowing. Case in point, try to make a whirlpool out of nothing but sand. Anyway, granular flow doesn't really apply here because we're talking about land, and guess what? Land is a solid. So with land, Warm land can't really be transported to areas of colder land, but with water, warm water can be transported to areas of colder water. So here's the thing. Antarctica is a giant continent. The Arctic has ocean flow all throughout it, so it makes sense that the place that has a lot of ocean flow would be warmer than the place without a lot of ocean flow. Now, just as a side note, people may point out that land tends to heat up and cool down faster than oceans, and this is true. However, the land in Antarctica is insulated by ice. Now, as I said earlier, elevation also plays a role. I shouldn't really have to explain it in detail. Higher elevation means lower temperatures, lower elevation means higher temperatures. So easy that Eric Dubay may even have a chance of understanding it. Anyway, those are the reasons for difference in climate between the Arctic and Antarctic. Moving on.
Based on the heliocentric globe model, both the Arctic and Antarctic receive comparable amounts of sunlight every year, and so should have comparable temperatures, seasonal changes, and ability to sustain plant and animal life.
Except, as I explained before, there are other factors aside from sunlight received.
The island of Kerguelen, at 49 degrees southern latitude, has only 18 species of native plants that can survive its hostile climate. Compare this with the island of Iceland at 65 degrees northern latitude, 16 degrees further north of the equator than Kerguelen is south, yet Iceland is home to 870 species of native plants.
Here's the thing though, Iceland is a lot bigger. So of course it's going to have more plant species. You don't need to be an expert in biodiversity to figure that one out.
On the Isle of Georgia, just 54 degrees southern latitude, the same latitude as Canada or England in the north, where dense forests of various tall trees abound, the infamous Captain Cook wrote that he was unable to find a single shrub large enough to make a toothpick.
So once again, you are comparing a small island to an entire fucking country. How are those two things anywhere near the same? Here's just a little suggestion for anyone that wants to talk about biodiversity that doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. Don't.
The Eskimo live as far north as the 79th parallel, whereas in the south, no native man is found higher than the 56th.
You know, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that below the 56th parallel, all you've got is Antarctica. Even if native people did manage to make it that far south, they'd probably die due to the cold.
Since this one fact would destroy the heliocentric globe model.
Not really, it just shows the extreme ignorance of flat earthers.
There is, and has been since the 1950s, an Antarctic treaty signed by over 50 countries banning all independent travel and exploration of the Antarctic.
That's wrong. All the treaty aims to do is protect the environment within Antarctica and bans military activity in Antarctica.
Excluding overpriced chaperoned penguin tours and government-approved contractors, nobody is allowed to step foot in Antarctica.
Except you can go to Antarctica for about 20 grand. I'm sure if all the flat earthers were to combine their money, they'd be able to afford to send someone to Antarctica, but they don't. Why might that be?
Since this particular lie is so important to the heliocentric facade, if you search online, you will find a couple videos purporting to show 24-hour sunlight in Antarctica. But just like the rest of the globe's pathetic video evidence, they are all fake. The most popular video allegedly showing an Antarctic 24-hour time-lapse actually has mountains accidentally layered over the video's text layer, proving it to be a calculated fraud.
Do you really think that the people that are supposedly deceiving you are so stupid that they wouldn't even notice a text layer behind a mountain layer? I think that what's more likely is the person editing it wanted to make the words appear like they were actually in the scene. So they thought, you know, I'll put these words behind the mountains. Therefore, it looks as though they're actually in the scene. And when they made that decision, they probably weren't thinking about people taking it the wrong way, because if you've actually gone out and filmed something, your first thought isn't, how do we make this not look like it's fake? Because you know that it's real.
Other videos simply show an Arctic midnight sun time-lapse, but claim it to be from Antarctica. There are dozens of clearly genuine videos you can see online of the Arctic midnight sun, and you can freely travel above the Arctic Circle to experience it for yourself. Conversely, however, there are only a couple clearly fake videos online of the supposed Antarctic midnight sun, and you cannot ever freely travel there to experience it for yourself.
So Eric Dubay clearly hasn't seen a video on my YouTube dad's channel. Let me play a little clip. So that was a video by Robert Schwartz that was mirrored on Wolfie 6020's channel. I'll leave a link to both the original video on Vimeo and the video on YouTube in the description. Now that full time lapse is actually over 5 days, not just over 24 hours. It has clearly been taken at the geographic South Pole, so that means that Eric Dubay can't accuse it of being taken at the North Pole. So that's it for that video, and thank God too, because that was way too much stupid. Eric Dubay's a fucking idiot. Anyway, leave a like and subscribe if you like that video. Leave a comment letting me know what kind of videos you might want me to respond to. As always, a big shout out to my $20 or more patrons. TheSunExpress, What Jesus, Fight the Flat Earth, Holmes, Hugh Jarsz, M.C.Nutkin, Wolfie, Stringer News 1, Ashpanash, Reynolds, Curvy New Yorker, OneTrueChaos, and Syssiphus. If you want to support me financially, you can do so on Patreon, link will be in the description. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Between you and me, thank you for watching. Eric Dubay will never be able to explain why this is not what we see.